Hello there. Hey everybody. Welcome to the Cantina. How you doing? Glad to see all you guys that are in here so far. Hope you've had a great week. Depending on whether you were backing the ghost or the Jurassic Park gates or both, maybe you had a better week than others. But it's really good to be here. Thank you for being patient. Glad to be here, you guys. Glad to see you all. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Good to see everybody that's in here with us. Let's see who is hanging out so far. Alex, ¿cómo estás? Abrazos. Judson, how you doing? Good to see you as always. Justin, how you doing, Justin? Hope you're doing well too. Dun, 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 dun. Hey Ken, how's it going? Yeah, let's tout that ghost. 9,000, 9,000. I'm all for it. Pico B1, how you doing? Good pickups. Let's talk about that. Hit me in the comments. What have you picked up lately? Gotta love clones. Yeah, you gotta love clones of all kinds of clones. Black Series Darth Malik and Basel on GameStop. Nice. Very cool. That's cool you got those. I haven't gotten those yet. I haven't received either one. But I think they're coming. Adam, how's it going? Good to see you, Adam, as always. Thanks for hanging out with us. The Worst Gamer, how are you doing? Hope your gaming's going well. Mary, good to see you as always. How are you doing, Mary? Hope you are doing well. Paul, hello, how's it going? Paul, good to see you in here with us. Greg, how's it going, Greg? Good to see you here. Hope everyone's doing well. I love seeing all the familiar Cantina denizens that come into the canteen on Friday night. So thank you all for being here, truly. Glad you're here. Hope that you enjoyed, the little bits of Comic-Con coverage I could provide. Hope you enjoyed the Q&A. And with Hasbro, that is. And yeah, it's been quite a week. Not just, I'm thinking about my work life, but not just in terms of that, like in terms of toys, like, busy week at Comic-Con, these crowdfund campaigns, these giant corporations do, that have all of our emotions being tugged out in different directions. It's just, it can be crazy sometimes. So thank you for hanging in there. And, I'm really curious to see what you guys have been picking up. So, definitely let me know in the comments. I don't want to grow hut. Good to see you. TGIF indeed. You're welcome, madam. My pleasure. Very cool. Very nice. Yeah, so I'm feeling good. I'm a little tired. Actually, I got home from work and just kind of chilled for a little bit. I guess I was tired because I fell asleep. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I got the live stream to do in 20 minutes. I better get up. So I'm here. So it's good to be here. As always. So I'm glad that you guys are here. My little setup this week, it changes almost every week. I have the Steven Spielberg Jurassic Park Comic-Con exclusive set, and then I have Black Chrysanthemum SDCC exclusive, both of which I picked up at the convention last weekend. And it just felt right because not only are these the only two things I bought at Comic-Con, believe it or not, these are the only two things I picked up. I was good. But it just seemed right because, with the HasLab and then the Mattel Creations thing, like, these are the two companies that are being represented this week in most everything. So, toys. So it just seemed like the right thing to have them both out here. Yeah, so I guess I want to start off by talking about San Diego Comic-Con and what that was like and how that was. So, I go to Comic-Con every year. I'm blessed to live, 15 minutes from Comic-Con where it's held. So I it's like, why not? It's here. It's like, take advantage. So I go every year. And, this year, very excitingly, and this is always one of the coolest things that when I go to Comic-Con is that Hasbro invites Victoria's Cantina to, they have this preview breakfast on the Thursday of Comic-Con or in the morning. And it's a really cool thing because it's people that you follow on social media, on Instagram, and people that you watch on YouTube, and they all gather with Hasbro, and it's different. It's not just like Star Wars; it's Star Wars and Marvel Legends team, and they even had like My Little Pony and Furby. And this year Power Rangers was not there. I don't know why. And this year Ghostbusters, I didn't expect Ghostbusters to be there, but they weren't there either. But it was Star Wars, Marvel Legends, Furby, My Little Pony, Transformers, GI Joe. Um, I'm sure I'm forgetting something. One of the games that they do, like the card games, that were there. So it's just a really cool thing. Thanks Hasbro for having us over, and for their PR for inviting us. But it's just a really cool thing to kind of rub elbows with other collectors and other people that you watch YouTube and follow on Instagram and stuff, and that follow you. So it's nice to hang out with people. And I had a lot of fun there, and it was cool seeing all the stuff. It was cool. The breakfast, they give you breakfast, at this event, and breakfast is always quite decent. So it was nice. They give you the coffee, they give you the juices and all that, and tea and everything. And they also gave us, I don't know if you were following Comic-Con coverage, then you probably know that they had this Hasbro Pulse store. And it was, I think it was the, what was it called? The archive shop. I forget. It was a store that they had in downtown San Diego, not next to the convention, because that week in San Diego Comic-Con, everything becomes Comic-Con downtown. Like you have to walk blocks and blocks to like go to other experiences and other things. So this year, they had their store, it has their Pulse store set up inside a building there in downtown San Diego, and it was really cool. The Vault is what it was. And they had a bunch of displays for like vintage, like Star Wars, GI Joe, all these different brands, My Little Pony, all these different brands that they make. They had them all set up in this store, and it was really cool to go in there and see all these vintage displays. And I threw pictures up in my story, and yeah, so that was neat. And they also gave us, because you had to reserve to go to the vault. You had to put in a reservation to go there. Otherwise, there was a standby line that was like really long. But they gave us, if we went to the breakfast, they gave us these VIP passes. So it was kind of like front of the line access. And, you get there and they're like, oh, yeah, here's a water, this and that. It was cool. But then I went like later, I passed by later in the weekend. There were no lines or anything, so anybody could go in. But it was cool because if you had a Comic-Con badge, you could go ahead and buy Black Chrysanthemum. You could buy any of the exclusives that they were selling at the show at this vault store. So that's where I got Black Chrysanthemum, and then I didn't have to deal with going in lines inside the show. Then yeah, the breakfast and everything, I see a question, was free. Everything there was breakfast was free. The toys were not. The breakfast itself was free. So that was cool. And you get to just kind of talk to different teams there that are there. And shout out to the Hasbro Star Wars team, and shout out to the Marvel team, because those are really the two that I like talk to mostly. And they were really cool. It was nice to hang out with them. And it was a good time. And to everybody that I saw a lot of people there that, a lot of friends that we've hung out with before and done podcasts with, and social hour, and, all this stuff. So I threw selfies when they took them, or if I took them up on my Instagram story. So that was fun. Jason, how's it going, Jason? Or are you not counting your Ghost pre-orders a pickup? Well, we could count that, but then could I count the gates, the Jurassic Park gates? Could I count those? Maybe. I guess I didn't order those at Comic-Con, but the Ghost I did. Yeah, unfortunately, Hot Toys was not there. Sideshow was not at like Comic-Con this year. I don't really know why. I know Hot Toys was doing their Hot Toys Con, which was just like an online thing. And they're actually doing a new event right now, like in Asia, where they're at, and they have like all these pictures that are coming out of all the new Star Wars and Marvel and DC stuff, all the stuff that I want. But they're doing that, lots of cool stuff. But yeah, so that's neat. Better Ray Bob, how's it going? Good to see you in here. So yeah, so that was a neat day. Thursday was a neat day. And then, Friday I was there the whole day. I was It's tiring because Friday, like, for toys is, like, really the big day, like, that's when Hasbro had their big panel, that's when Mattel had a little Jurassic I wouldn't even call it a panel, it's more like a presentation more than anything, but I attended both. That's when, the HasLab kicked off. That's really the big day. Friday is like the big day now for toys and announcements and toy companies. So I went in and I did the Mattel panel. I was there, or presentation. I was more apt because it wasn't like in a hall or anything. It was in just at their booth, and that was really not ideal because it was so hard to see. There wasn't like tiered seating. There wasn't seating at all. It was just like standing room, and I'm not that tall, so I couldn't really see, I couldn't really hear. I had to hold my camera up to like take pictures, but they weren't good photos, so I didn't really share any. Um, it was cool to be there, but I wish Mattel had a dedicated like room like Hasbro did so they could do their presentations, because it was supposed to be a cool presentation. It was like 30 years of Jurassic toys, but yet they didn't talk about any Kenner Jurassic toys. The only Jurassic toys they talked about were like the current ones. So I don't know why it was called 30 years of Jurassic toys, other than it actually being 30 years of Jurassic Park. They didn't have like anything on display that was old. They didn't have like Kenner stuff. They didn't talk about Kenner stuff. So I was a little confused because I thought it was going to be more focused on like the history of Jurassic Park toys, and it wasn't. It was just like their latest stuff, like any other Comic-Con year. It was kind of puzzling to me. I was confused. Um but it was cool to just kind of be there and talk to the designers a little bit and just kind of see, what was going on. I asked a few questions about the Mattel creations, the gates. I asked a few questions about that. They presented, some of the new stuff that was going to be coming in later in the year. They talked about the Hammond collection and, how that's continuing. And, they talked about how the smaller Jurassic Park Hammond collections are going to get the glass eyes, like the T-Rex. Like if you have the Hammond collection T-Rex, then you know that it has glass eyes and they kind of like follow you like this. No matter like where you go, they kind of like stay with you. Kind of like the ghosts from the Haunted Mansion. Um, Kind of like that. Oh, speaking of Haunted Mansion, I'm going to see that tomorrow. I love the Haunted Mansion, the ride. But yeah, so the smaller dinos are going to get that. They showed Dimetrodon. They showed these other like things that they're doing. So there's more, Mattel. They're going to keep this line going forever and ever, but they're not going to keep the gates going because that didn't fund. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, that was the Mattel thing. And again, I really wish they would have had it like in an actual room because it was really hard to see and it's hard to hear because yeah, they were on microphones, but when you're there at Comic-Con, there's noises coming from all over. And they're actually set up right across from the Star Wars booth, the Lucasfilm booth. And it was just loud because they had clips playing nonstop over and over and over. And you're sitting there and you're trying to like hear, but it's really hard to hear because it was crazy, all the craziness of Comic-Con. So, and you're just like this with people, and it's nicer to sit down like with the Hasbro booth. So I don't know why Mattel doesn't do like an actual thing, but in any case, so that was Friday morning, and after that, then Hasbro had their big panel for Star Wars that afternoon. So I wanted to make sure I got in there, so I went and got in line like probably an hour and 20 minutes early because I didn't want to risk not getting into the room because you're never guaranteed that you're going to get into to one of the big like hall rooms so that you can hear a presentation. That's never guaranteed. So I just wanted to go early. And I did. And, I had to wait in line a long time. But thankfully my pal, Anthony from the Imperial Communique was in line already. And he's like, hey, come on over. So I got in line with Anthony. So thank you, Anthony. And then, yeah, so I got into the room and it was this really cool, thing. And it was just like night and day compared to the little presentation Mattel did. I mean, and I don't mean that like in a biased way or anything, because I obviously collect both companies, but it was just night and day. Like the way the designers and the whole team, like Hasbro is just so much more polished. Like their presentation, their speaking, their Q&As, like they are like so trained on interacting with people and with listening to people, good and bad. And it's not an easy job. And it's just like night and day when you look at like Hasbro versus Mattel. Like the Hasbro guys are just, regardless of what you say on, or you think of them, or the comments we see on social media, they're really nice people. And they obviously, they're busy. They're working under these really stressful circumstances. If even for me, like covering Comic Con, like going in and doing Q&As and stuff is really stressful. It really is stressful. So I don't envy at all what they do all day long, like working there for like 4 days. That's nuts. And then their presentations and Q&As and all that. So they do a really good job. The guys at Hasbro, they do a really good job. The presentation was amazing. I live streamed it. If you were watching me on Instagram at that time, I didn't announce it before because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do that. And that's mostly because there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people at Comic Con at any one given time, and you're all competing for that cellular signal, right? So I didn't know if it was going to work, so I didn't want to announce and then have people disappointed that I couldn't do it. So I went in there, I gave it a try, and it worked. So I streamed the whole thing. So hopefully some of you were able to watch that. But it was cool. It was a good presentation. Everybody in there, the energy was so enthusiastic for all the Hasbro announcements. They weren't all perfect, of course. There were some kind of confusing things, like a bunch of Mandalorian stuff that we seemingly already have in the Vintage Collection that's coming back. But the enthusiasm was really good, especially when they announced the ghost. Like everybody was, if you're watching the live stream, and you can go back on my Instagram and still see it, but people were just like cheering when the ghost was announced. Like, I know we all knew it was coming, right? Like the rumors kept saying the ghost. But still the enthusiasm in the room was really good. And what I loved too is that there were kids in the room. There weren't just, people like me, like, adults, or, going in there, and there were kids in there too. And I saw at the very end, Hasbro did a Q&A, and they had kids in line asking about the Rebels figures, asking about, characters that they were interested in seeing. So that was kind of neat to see kids there, participating, listening, and getting excited. And there were kids in there saying, "I'm going to get the ghost," and, the ghost this, and, asking about the figures in the ghost. So that was neat. So I just really loved the energy in there. It was really exciting to be in there. And, it was cool. It was a good presentation. I was like really, really, really pleased with the whole thing. Like, they do a good job. They, it's not easy, but Hasbro does a good job. So they did awesome. But Matic, how's it going? Good to see you in here with us this evening. I'm just going to do a scan here to see who's new in here that may have popped in since I last acknowledged people. Delgado, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, definitely. They have great visibility, and they are fans too. Not that Mattel or anyone is not fans. I mean, I'm sure they are, but I'm just saying, like, the level of, like, Hasbro is just much more polished in terms of like how they engage with the consumer than Mattel is, and that's very noticeable when you're interacting with them at the show. Funeral Motors, how's it going? Did you hear something about HasLab making a leap to retro collection vehicles? Playsets, cheers, thank you. I have not, and I know if he's still in here, my friend Greg is a big proponent of the vehicles for retro. I have not heard that. My personal take is that I don't want them to do that, because a lot of the vehicles that they made in the Power of the Force 2, in the modern Star Wars line from 1995 up until now, a lot of the vehicles that have come out in that time have been the vintage vehicles. They just repainted them, they retooled them a little bit, they enhanced a feature here and there, but by and large, they're the same exact thing. So it's like, do I want to buy things that I already have? Now, it would be cool to buy them for the boxes. But we have TVC already. It would be cool to buy them, just if they were 100% the vintage ones brought back. But it's not something I would rather see them investing their tooling dollars in, when it's something that I kind of already have. I'd rather that go into making other things, other Star Wars things. So that's my stance on that. That is my stance on that. There was a lot of kids lighting up their lightsabers during the Hasbro panel. Yeah, Alex, were you there? Were you there? Yeah, there were. That was true. There were kids in there that had Force Effect sabers, and they were lighting them up, and so that was really neat. Yeah, thanks, Pico B1. Sorry, Greg. I know you really want those. But yeah, not for me. The price was high for tier one. Maybe people saw the tiers that would make it worth the money. It would not be reached, so they bailed. Yeah, we'll talk about that in depth, the gates, in just a minute. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that went into that not funding. A lot of factors, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Yes, I see questions about the gates, questions about the ghost. We'll talk about that for sure. Did you like the Lego booth? I thought it was awesome. Okay, so you were there. Yeah, that was neat. I did go in there. I did walk through. I walked through the whole Funko. They Funko did this whole little like city, and they really like took over like the back side of the build, like the side of the building, and they really like went to town with like a blockbuster video pop up and all these things that were fun. Like Funko, I don't really collect Funko stuff, but they do a good job when it comes to Comic Con. They really do. They really do. Is Comic Con becoming more of a toy con? I mean, it kind of has been for years, like really, like especially this year. The big studios kind of bailed because of the writer's strike. So basically, that's what it was this year. It was just merchandising. That was like the big thing. There were still some celebrities there and stuff, but it wasn't like Warner Brothers had a booth there, but it wasn't like they didn't have. Usually you have you have actors, you have people that write comic books there, and they're talking to everybody and hanging out or whatever it is, or you can go see them at their booth, or you can set up an appointment to go get them to sign your comic or whatnot. But there was a lot less of that this year because of everything going on with the strikes and everything. So yeah, especially more so this year than in the past. It was like a toy con more than anything else. Very true. But there were some really cool film experiences downtown. Like there was the Jurassic experience, which shout out to my pal Tom Bishenden for hooking us up with that. We were able to go into the Jurassic experience, and check that out without a reservation. So that was rad. We also I got to go into the Haunted Mansion experience, which was so cool. It was the lighting in there was awesome. I need to create a folder on my Instagram, like a story with all this stuff, because I don't think my story expired by now. But I'll do that so you can, if you want to go back and look at that, because I mean that was so cool. Like the Haunted Mansion pop up was so good, and there were other pop ups. I didn't make it to all of them, but it was still neat to go in there. All right, so cool, good to know, Alex. Well, sorry I didn't see you this time. All right, so let's see what else. All right, so that's basically what the experience was. I mean, Thursday, and then after the presentation that Hasbro did, we were able to go down to the booth because they had the ghost on display. They had the actual ghost with all the figures, and it is so cool. Like when you see the ghost in person, it is so cool. It is tremendously huge. And what they have had at Comic Con isn't even the final one. Like, Chris, the designer one of the designers on it, was saying that, it's not final. And he even put Hera inside the inside of the ship. And he showed how, like, when you move her from like the common room, I guess we'll call it, and try to put her into the hallway that goes into the bunks, and then the cockpit, that her head hits on the top of the ghost, like it hits on the doorway. And he was saying that the most recent prototype isn't even the one they had at Comic-Con. They have a more recent prototype where that's not an issue. And he said even Zeb can go in there without hitting his head on that. So it's still work in progress, and that's why it's not going to be out for a while, because it's still something that's being made. They have been working on it, I think he said, for actively for 6 months, like they've been all about it for 6 months behind the scenes. But I think it was Jing that said they've actually been kind of working on it really since the Razor Crest, so for some time now. But yeah, like they really put into gear the last 6 months, and it's so cool in person. The figures are so good in person. So it was really neat. So we went down to the booth, saw that Hasbro Pulse was doing a live stream at that time. So I was standing right next to designer Chris, and as he was going over, I didn't even realize they were live streaming, but later people were like, "Hey, you were in the live stream." So I was like, "Of course I was." So yeah, I'm on the Hazard Pulse live stream for that. Like they're just kind of like goggling at the ghost and everything and listening, and so that was a lot of fun. And then the next day, Saturday, I had my Q&A with Hasbro, so I went and I did my interview Saturday evening, and I think it was their last interview for the con. So they were very gracious and took a lot of time with me and answered all my questions. And you can ask anything you want. It's not like the ones that they do where it's like over the computer, the Zoom ones where they answer your questions on a screen. Like those are cool and all, but you have to send your questions in advance, and then they preview your questions and they send them to the designer, and then they say, okay, well, no, we want questions more focusing on these more recent releases. This Comic-Con, like Star Wars Celebration, is not like that at all. You can ask them whatever you want. Like there's nobody filtering your questions. They don't even look at your questions in advance. So that's one of the really cool things about actually like interviewing them in person. So Saturday I did my interview. And it was cool. It was about a 20-minute conversation. I filmed the whole thing, but then, it's always that kind of thing, especially because I was last, that you continue talking to them after. So not everything is captured on camera, not everything is recorded, but we still get to talk to them after the Q&A is over. So, that wasn't recorded, so I'm not gonna, talk about any conversations that I had, other than, the ones that I was having on the recording. But unless it's like informal common knowledge things. But yeah, so it was neat. And the video is up if you haven't checked that out yet. Feel free to do so. Like I said, it's always crazy doing these interviews because you're there and it's like the heat of the moment, right? Like you're there and I had somebody filming me on camera and filming the interview, and I had the microphone, and I had the questions and everything. But it's always crazy because you're in a high traffic area there at the Hasbro booth, which is like one of the most like busiest booths in all of Comic-Con. And there are hundreds of people just like walking behind you, walking around you, like looking at you, like taking pictures, and then you hear things. And so no, it's so easy like to get distracted, but it's just such a like high pressure thing because there's a million things going on, and it's hard to like just be there like asking questions and staying focused and everything. But yeah, it's a cool thing to be able to do it either way. So thanks to Hasbro for having us, inviting us to participate in the Q&A. Yeah, I'm excited about all that. And even I mentioned that the ghost is impressive in person. The gates are equally impressive in person, like genuinely. The pictures Mattel posted don't 100% did not do them justice. Like seeing it in person, like you really appreciate why it's the price that it is. Like if all the tiers had been unlocked, like $250 actually would have been a deal, in my opinion, because when you see it in person, you just really appreciate the minutia of the detail, the intricacies of how the electronics work, the music, and all the other stuff. So it's really a bummer it didn't work out. And we'll go into that in more detail in just a little bit. I know I keep saying that. Yeah, very cool, Adam. I enjoyed seeing it in person. I couldn't touch. I didn't touch. I just looked. And Chris moved it around, or whoever was, from Hasbro would move it around, like show you the different stuff. Ken, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, that's the answer I anticipated too, I mean, it'd be at least nice to know if there are more waves coming. Like, yeah, there's a wave, left. We haven't announced it, but there is a wave. Like, a little detail like that would have been nice. But yeah, that's to be expected, I guess. Yeah, so no, I had a great time at Comic-Con. I did like the ghost spider like cosplay on. I mean, it was like very like mild, very tame. It wasn't all out or anything, but it was just like inspiration. And I don't usually do that. It's very rare. And when I do, it's like very subtle like stuff. It's not like an all-out costume, which maybe I should do that next time. But yeah, so I had a great time. Everything, it's always so busy there. Like it's so crowded, and Sometimes it'll take like 10 minutes to walk 100 feet because everybody's going slow and people are trying to go this way and that way and this way and that way. Well, not that way because you can't go up, but they were going like in other directions. And so it was a good time. It just, you got to go with a lot of patience. You got to go with a lot of, uh, collectiveness in your head. I know a lot of people go to the conventions like, oh, I got to do this, got to do that, got to get that exclusive, got to get that exclusive. And the reality is that you got to pick and choose because there's so much stuff going on that, especially if you're like me and you like a lot of things. I love, obviously Star Wars. I love Jurassic. I love DC. I love Marvel. Like it, I have to kind of like, I can't do it all, especially when you're there to cover certain events. You got to really time your events around the schedule, and even like going to the Jurassic experience. You got to like time it all around all that. And but even when it's not at the convention center, because like I said, during Comic-Con, the whole downtown becomes Comic-Con, and like you got to walk blocks and blocks to see other things. So that's part of it too. But yeah, the Jurassic experience was pretty neat. It was basically photo ops. Like you went in, and you could sit on the toilet while there was a head of the T-Rex, like a life-size head of the T-Rex, just stationary. But they used the lighting and the sound to be more of like that atmosphere more than anything else. There were like artificial like plants and trees like in this warehouse, and there was a Dilophosaurus photo op. There was a raptor in the kitchen photo op, and there was like the bunker with all the buttons on it to restore the power photo op. So there was all that stuff. So it was neat. But like I said, like the Haunted Mansion one was really good too. I really, really liked that one though. Like the lighting was really rad in there, like for selfies and photos and stuff. It was really cool. Like lots of cool photo ops, and not even like that looked 100% like Haunted Mansion specific. They could have like been anything, but that was a really neat thing to see. Dave, how's it going? Good to see you, Dave. Glad that you are with us. All right. So I do just want to talk about the exclusives real quick. So Chrysanthemum, I haven't even been bothered to open these things. I just haven't had time. Got Chrysanthemum. What I love about the Steven Spielberg one, which that one, I don't know about Chrysanthemum, but the Spielberg one did sell out. It sold out by like Saturday, I think. It was gone for the whole show. And then yeah, so the Jurassic Park one, what I like is like it looks like the VHS. Remember the VHS for Jurassic Park? It looks like that. And I have it. I know inside is like the big Spielberg set with. See, it says Mattel Creations. The Spielberg set, which has the inner box has like the directors like, and I haven't even been bothered to open either of those. But I'm glad that I will. I will probably this weekend. I will. You on the toilet was hilarious. Yeah. I did use the photo op for the toilets. I was sitting there looking up at the Rex, and yeah, I guess I got eaten on the T-Rex by the T-Rex on a toilet. And thankfully both of these have been online. I think pretty much anybody that wanted them was able to order them at this point. And yeah, the Spielberg one sold out. I was surprised because last year I think even the big outhouse set that they did, with the Rex and Gennaro and the toilet, like that didn't. Speaking of toilets, like that didn't sell out. And I think before that, the one with was it Arnold? I think it had Arnold in there with the Raptor, Ray Arnold. That didn't sell out either, as far as I remember. So I'm surprised that this one did. Yeah, it does look more like a laser disc than a VHS. I would agree with that. Yeah, the outer box is pretty nice. I do like it. Yeah, I mean, I just get like, yeah, I feel that. I just get like the exclusives for sure, like doubles, because I like to have one to open and one to keep boxed. Because it's especially when you're like at the convention, like then you're even more like I feel like I'm even more eager to pick up the exclusive because it's kind of like a souvenir that hey, I was there, kind of a thing. Yeah, what else have you guys gotten? So I do want to talk about the gate. I want to talk about the ghost. I just need to warm up to it first. Yeah, so it's been a week. Like I said at the top of the show, if you collect Star Wars or if you collect Jurassic, you either had a great week or you had not a great week. And if you collect both like I do, then it was a mix. Um, I I backed both the Gates and the Ghost, of course. Um, and I wanted both to happen. I really, 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 really wanted the Gates to happen. Like I was saying, the Gates in person are so impressive. The pictures that were on Mattel Creations site, they just don't do it justice. Like when you see it in person, you really appreciate why it was $250. It totally makes sense when you see it in person. Um, the Explorer was nice. I didn't give a lot of attention to the Explorer, but the Gates were just with the fences on the side of them, with the lights blinking and the doors, going like that. I didn't even realize that it had the panel that Nedry goes in and like hacks or whatever he does to get it to open. Or I don't. He probably just pushed the button to get it to open, like a manual button. Um, I didn't even realize that was a detail in the Mattel pictures. But when you see it in person, it was pretty magnificent. Like I understood like why this was or $250 with the Explorer. Um, at some point, I know they changed the campaign so that it included the fences, and then it was just 1,000 more backers to get electrified Tim, then 1,000 more back or 2,000 more backers to get Lex and the goat. They kind of changed things and didn't tell people they changed things. Um, this thing was impressive, and we're never going to get this again. I I think that when you look at the Gates and you look at the Ghost, both of these are diametrically opposed scenarios that are 100% different. You have two like awesome quality products, but the messaging around them, the hype, the timing, and the sheer level of passion put forth by those involved was completely opposite. Like those Gates should have funded. Those Gates should have funded. But it was such a weird thing. I think what confuses me the most as a collector is that, Hasbro is basically a master class at doing this kind of thing. HasLab, crowdfund, the Ghost, the Razor Crest, the Sail Barge, the the F-14, all these different things that they've done. Colossus, all that stuff. Like they are a master class in how they set up these crowdfunds. Um, what confuses me is why did Mattel not rely on the successful crowdfund campaigns that Hasbro does? I'm not saying that as what they should have copied exactly what Hasbro does, but when you look at the comparison between Hasbro and Mattel for these crowdfunds, like it's very obvious that the failure of the Gates largely rests with Mattel. Um, because it made no sense at all. The way they structured this crowdfund made no sense at all. The timing was weird, right? There was a leak sometime in last month, and the next day, I think, or within the next day or two, they announced it. They announced it that the Gates were Mattel Creations. It was already at the end of June, so it's like the end of Jurassic June, and there wasn't, there was like a video with it, but like there wasn't anything solid with it. There wasn't videos with the interviewers. There wasn't a big announcement. There wasn't a big hype. You know, I mean, what Hasbro did with the Ghost is they on social media on Instagram they put like things in that you had to in Arabesh that you had to like if you wanted, people did it, so I didn't have to do it, but to decode those messages to kind of tease that it was coming. Mattel was just like, here you go, but it was like to so little fanfare. It was so little fanfare. Um, there was no hype. It was just, here's the Gates. They're $250. So the timing was really weird. They didn't capitalize on the timing in a way that they should have. They should have hyped it before. They should have probably started it at Comic Con. Capitalize on all those people that are there. Capitalize on the media coverage. Capitalize on the excitement. People will share their photos on social media. If they're at the con, the news is going to get out fast. They should have done like a special panel on it, announcing even if it was with other companies doing their own, their other stuff, like their Barbie or whatever other things Mattel does these days. They could have done like all the HasLabs in there, but they really needed to be there and do it. Like the timing was so off. So that was the first thing. The second thing I would say, when it was finally announced, or not when it was finally announced, it was just kind of announced. The tiers made no sense. Like, again, the gates are so impressive in person. When you see them, it makes sense why they cost $250. But with the Explorer, but you should never put such a huge part of the perceived value in the stretch goals that may or may not fund, because that's instantly going to kill the excitement for a lot of people. With the Ghost, for example, or the Razor Crest, for example, the stretch goals were figures on cards, right? Those were packed in. Okay. Those are easy to do relatively. In the Ghost case, they're all new sculpts. So that's like more of an investment. But with the Razor Crest, those were just like, kind of tweaks, right? With the Sail Barge, that was just yak face on a different card with the coin. Mattel's Gates campaign was you get the Gates and the Explorer, but if you want to get the fences, which are a very critical component of the gate, we got to get all these thousands more backers, and you get Tim, which we have Tim. Yes, this is the electrified hair Tim, but we have Tim. And then the next stretch goal was Lex and the Goat, which is just kind of bizarre why Lex and the Goat would be the last stretch goal. And it's not surprising. They make you pay $100 to get this set of dinosaurs you don't want, just to get Ellie Sattler, and they'll put Lex at the very end of, this stretch goal for, I'm not surprised. I wish I could say that, Mattel is conscientious with their Jurassic line when it comes to equally treating the characters in terms of gender or in terms of sex, but they're not, like, and we've seen that already. Like, I don't even need to recap the times, sorry, Mattel, but you guys keep, it's the perception that people have is that, you treat some of these women characters a little bit less because you make them harder to get. Anyway, I'm digressing. It's kind of weird that was the last tier with the Goat. So, okay. So the tiers thing in the stretch goals is just bizarre. Like, that is just bizarre. Oh, I didn't even mention the Rex, right? The Bull Rex. That was its own thing too. So like I said, like, the perceived value should not be that you pay $250 for half the item and then hopefully the other half of the item you get because people back. That's not how it should work. The stretch goals should be supplements. They should be, things that are easier, things that we want, obviously, that it would be exciting to have, but they shouldn't be like a bull T-Rex, right? That shouldn't be a thing like in there. So it was just like, I was just confused, like how they did that, the timing, the tiers, right? And the stretch goals, like that was just bizarre. The other thing I would say, the third thing would be the messaging. Like, there was no hype. They weren't touting this on social media a whole lot. I got a few ads on Instagram and Facebook for the crowdfund, even though I'd already gotten the crowdfund or backed it. But, I know a lot of collectors that did not. And, like, I just think about, with like Pulse or, with Hasbro, when they do a HasLab, like, it's out there, like on Entertainment Weekly. It's out there on Gizmodo. It's out there on, all these sites. You could go online and you could see it. And you can just Google like Star Wars news and it'll come up. Like, the gates the messaging was just poor. They didn't like really do anything at the beginning. There was a video on the website, but they didn't do their presentation until later, like weeks later, where you could like live stream, you could watch their stream. But even that, like I don't feel like that stream really had a lot of excitement. Like when you see the team in the video, the designers, the people from Mattel that are in there, like you don't sense the excitement for the product. Like they were just showing it to you. And I'm sure they're excited, but it's hard to be in front of the camera. Like I get that, but same time, like you just couldn't really feel the excitement for it. Like it was just kind of like, well, let's throw this out there with these strange tiers, with this weird pricing, and let's see if it works. And it didn't work, obviously. So I think all of these things played into that. I would also say the fourth thing, we're at four, right? The fourth thing was that they haven't figured out how to market to collectors. Like Hasbro has that down to like a science. And again, I'm not trying to say like Hasbro's amazing and Mattel sucks, because I'm not trying to say that. I'm talking about their crowd funds, like how they operate their crowd funds. Mattel has not figured out how to cater to an adult collector fan base. And I think, unfortunately, that has caused, several adult collectors to kind of just give up on collecting Mattel's adult collector lines because they have a lot of issues. I did a video, Everything Wrong with the Amber collection, a couple years ago. That line was the collector line. That was supposed to be like their mainstream collector line. And it was just weird because it was the choices they were making, the figures being so like far apart. Like you get two characters in a year and two small dinos in a year. Like that was just, it didn't make a lot of sense. So I did this video about it. I may do another follow-up to that, Everything Right with the Hammond collection, but I don't know. You guys let me know if you want me to do that. But they have not figured out, even when you look at the Hammond collection, like I like a lot of what Hammond collection does, but it's not really like the Triceratops, like the figures, they're not the vintage collection quality. And I'm not saying that they have to be. I'm just saying that collectors in 2023, adult collectors that have been collecting for 10, 20, 30 years, their standards have grown. Like they don't want to get a 5 POA figure. They don't want to get a figure that doesn't look anything like the character. You could go to McFarlane, never mind. You could go to other companies for stuff like that. But Mattel has not figured out what the collector audience is and what kind of things that it wants. Because if they asked me, or if they asked, people that I keep in touch with, for the adult lines, we want the highest caliber of action figure, of dinosaur, the best QC. I personally would pay a little bit more if I was going to get a better product, when it comes to the Hammond collection. I mean, I like and I appreciate that Mattel is trying to gear towards adult collectors, but they just haven't figured out what that segment of their consumer base is, who those people are. They haven't figured out what those people want. They haven't figured out how to market to those people. So, all of these things plague Mattel, and all of these things culminated in what happened with the gates. The other thing that I did find curious is that the crowdfund was the gates at all. I mean, I love that they were making the gates, because I've been wanting gates and fences for a long ass time. Like I've been asking, like I'm just putting it out there on social media, like, hey, when are we gonna get the gates? When I see them or talk to them, when are we gonna get the fences? Like 3 3/4-inch action figure lines are all about the world building. We see that with the vintage collection. We see that with Mattel's Jurassic line. We see that with all these lines. And yeah, it's just kind of bewildering to me. But I don't know. Anyway, the gates. So I'm digressing, going down different tangents here. The gates were, and was something that I wanted, and I think a lot of collectors did want that, because that is what the world building is. It's the dinosaurs, the human figures, the vehicles, the playset. That's world building since the 1980s, actually the 70s. Go back to Star Wars. That's the world building right there. That's the world building right there. The gates themselves, like, are so important for somebody like me who grew up with the original film and saw the original film in theaters and loved it and everything. Like, those gates are pivotal to my personal collection. Like, I have the Kenner ones and they're great, but I need a modernized gate. Okay, so I don't mind so much that they made the gates. What I do mind is that how you had to wait for another tier to get the two fences, and the tiers were all, the way they were. But I think, based on my conversations with collectors, and you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, based on my conversations with other people, the gates that they would have wanted weren't necessarily these gates. Because, like I said, these gates are awesome. When you see them in person, you get why they're $250. They're worth $250, I would say, having seen them. But the gates, I didn't need my gates to be that fancy. I would have been fine with, like, everything they do, scale it down a little bit. It could have been 2/3 the size, no electronics, maybe the lights, that would have been okay. Sell it for $100, through Creations, or, through some way, Amazon. That's what I would have preferred. A smaller scale thing that they could have done a little bit more easily. That would have been my preference. I would also say that I'm trying to think of what else they could have done. Like, people want the command compound. I mean, I don't know how many of you want the command compound, but I want the command compound because that's one of the things Kenner did they haven't yet touched. And I think that could have been done pretty close to the price of these gates, and arguably, those could have been done, those would have done better, possibly. Like, the gates are great, they're beautiful, they're magnificent, they're worth the price, but that's not what people are asking for. So when you look at the totality of what drove this campaign for the gates into the ground, it's all of these things. It's the timing, it's the weird stretch goals and tiers, it's the lack of the messaging being so poor, and it's Mattel not knowing who their collector base is. I think all of those things factored into this. And, did collectors come out and do their part? Some of them did. I ordered the gates. Some of them did not, either because they didn't want the gates, or they didn't understand how crowdfunding works, or they didn't understand, why the gates were like this. Lots of hypotheticals, lots of reasons that I saw, that you see online. But either way, the gates did not happen. The gates did not happen, and I get why they didn't happen. It makes perfect sense to me why they did not happen. And honestly, I think more than anything else, Mattel just kind of squandered it. And that's sad because, like I said, there's all this market data out there. Just look at what Hasbro's doing with their crowdfunds. Are they all perfect? No, but they funded most of them, and their tiers make pretty good sense to the consumer, obviously, because they're reaching the stretch goals. This was a mess. And, honestly, like, a book could be written about the gates. It was just a mess. And it could have been done so much better. I think had all of these factors been ironed out a little bit better, I think that could have funded and should have funded. But ultimately, that's what happened with the Mattel gates. And that's why we're not getting them, sadly. Will we ever get gates from Mattel? We may get Jurassic Park gates at some point or another. I can't say. If we do, they'll be what I suggested earlier. They'll be 2/3 the size, no electronics, maybe some lights, basic. But it's not going to happen for at least like 2-3 years, probably for a long time, because they're not going to just suddenly make gates when their crowdfund failed for the gates. So, yeah, behind the gates indeed. You guys are making me laugh here. Victoria must have stopped by the Lake of Wisdom because she is spitting straight facts. Mattel over here acting like the DCU to Hasbro's MCU, coming up a bit short and in need of some course corrections. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so many things. Micah, how's it going? Are you opening those stickers you got? Looks like you got a TVC before BB. What's that? Yeah, I bought these at the con, but I haven't opened them just because I haven't had time, but I will. I certainly will. Jay, how's it going? Yeah, it's okay if you're late because the replay will be available on YouTube afterward. Perfect disaster waiting to happen. They managed to create the perfect failure. Then ended up being a massive flop for fans and Mattel's marketing team. Basically, it's pretty embarrassing. Like, I mean, I imagine that they're probably pretty embarrassed that it didn't fund, and they're probably gonna. I think they're already giving hints of it on social media. They're gonna try and blame collectors for not coming out, but I don't think you can blame collectors because of all the reasons I just outlined. You know, to some extent you can, and you know, there's some people that have been really nasty online about this whole thing, but you know, they really just didn't come to bat with the right bat. I mean, it was just a mess. It was just a mess. So I hope they take some lessons learned and they move forward. But they're already saying things on social media, like when they were promoting them towards the end, like the heavily fan demanded electronic gates. Like nobody was asking for all that. Like nobody. So they're probably going to try and blame collectors, but I hope they don't take the wrong lessons, you know, home with them. Oh, I got a TVC before Boss Bunny. That doesn't happen very often. Tim always gets his things pretty quickly. And yeah, Boss Bunny, one of the best channels on YouTube for collecting Star Wars for sure. Vintage collection. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about the Ghost. So I'm focusing on the two HasLabs, right? The two crowdfunds, the Jurassic Park Gates from Mattel Creations and the Ghost from HasLab. They did everything right with the Ghost. And again, I know I mentioned in the log, I'm not trying to make things like Hasbro versus Mattel, but I mean, honestly, like it's obvious. Like I said, the presentation, they knocked it out of the park. The messaging on it, you know, their enthusiasm for it. You know, the Q&A that they held, not for me, but like inside after the panel was done, like they had kids and people coming up and ask questions. That was great. And then they had the Ghost downstairs, which, you know, Mattel did have the gates, but Hasbro had the Ghost and they were there live streaming it, talking about it. The designers was carrying it around and taking parts off and showing the figures and like, you know, just the hype and the messaging. And like, it was just like really saw the video that they made. Like you could feel the excitement in the video, and you know what, the way they unlocked the tears in that video, they made people want to get the Ghost. Like they just sold it, you know, in that video. And that's really what you got to do. They didn't really sell it and with the gate, but Hasbro like really knocked the presentation out of the park. And then, like I said, being there downstairs afterward at a fan event where fans could be there taking video, taking photos, you know, sharing them on social media and making YouTube videos and stuff. Like they announced it at the right place, the right venue, and the messaging was solid. So I think that was a big part of why it was successful the way that it was. Like I think all the Star Wars HasLabs have been announced at conventions. I think except for, I think the Rancor, I'm trying to remember at the Rancor if it was announced at convention or not, but anyway, the timing was great. The messaging was great. They made it plain and obvious why you wanted to spend $500 on a Ghost, you know, twice what the gates would have cost for something of similar size with no electronics, but with, you know, action figures, TVC quality action figures. So yeah, that was in place. The tiers made sense, right? Like the HasLab, you know, you have to, it's got to hit 8,000 to get, you know, the actual ship with Hera. But, you know, for another 2,000, you get a figure. Another 2,000, you get a figure. Another 2,000, you get a figure. Like that was or 3,000, whatever the gaps are, but that was handled really, really well. Like the tiers, the stretch goals made sense. They were clear. And it was just designed well. Like, not just the vehicle, which is fabulous, it looks amazing in person, but just the whole campaign was designed so well. Like, the whole thing was really solid. The messaging was solid. Capitalizing on the timing and the hype of the convention, solid. So that alone goes a long way in making sure a crowd is going to be successful or not. And it really points to makes it highlights reasons why the Mattel Creations gates were not successful. But yeah, the Ghost obviously funded within 4 days. I think by, was it Monday, it was already funded? Yeah, I think Monday. It was funded, and now we're working towards the stretch goals. So, twice the price for an item of similar size without electronics, with figures that funded in 4 days versus something that only got like 31% of its goal. It's nuts. It's really crazy, but and I know that Star Wars has probably a much big collector fan base than Jurassic does. I know that's the case. But even so, if you message the product right, if you time it right, if you announce it, if you hype it up, um, you're going to be able to give your product the highest chances possible for a successful crowdfund campaign. And these are all things that Mattel didn't do with the gates, and it's really sad. It's really unfortunate. So yeah, no, I'm excited for the Ghost. I hope it hits all of its stretch goals. Like I said in the Hasbro Q&A, the only thing that kind of has me a little irritated, not irritated, I would say, but just as a collector, a little frustrated, is that I'm a loose and a carded collector when it comes to the basic carded vintage collection figures. I like to have loose, and I like to have carded, because I like to have them on the wall where I can see the figures in the boxes. So it was really just like a little, like, a little bummer kind of thing. It wasn't being upset or frustrated. It was just like kind of a bummer, like, oh, so if I want to get carded and loose samples of these figures, I got to buy the Ghost twice, or I got to wait for eBay and then try and get the figures a second set on eBay, which is probably what the route I'll go, because I don't want to buy a whole other Ghost just so that I can get those figures. With the HasLabs, I only buy one. Like, that's all I've done with the Razor Crest, with the Barge. I've only bought one. And then with the Razor Crest, with the Barge, let's go back to the Barge. I got the Yak Face with the coin, the Power of the Force Yak Face, and I kept it on the card because the figure was available in the main line. Same exact figure. The only difference was the coin in a little cup that he came with. So I was like, I don't need the cup. I have other cups in my Cantina diorama. But the Razor Crest did have two special figures. Like, Grogu had a new head. He came with the season 2 pram, and the Jawa was the Jawa Elder, and he had the necklace, and he had the cracked egg. So what I did for that is I went to eBay and I just bought a set of, like, the figures so I could open up, have a set to open, and then a set to keep carded. And I'll probably do the same with the Ghost, because I just don't know if I want to buy 2 Ghosts. Like, I mean, I know some people are, and some people are buying like more than 2, and that's cool, great, awesome. But when it comes to the HasLabs, I just need 1. I need the item and the figures. Like, if I need to go somewhere else to get the figures, I'll try and do that, because I don't know if I need to back 2 with these things. It's $500 and they're huge, and I don't even know where I'm going to put one. So yeah. But yeah, so that'd be my only thing. Is it's a bit of a bummer I have to go and do that, but I mean, what's the alternative? Include a loose set of figures with the Ghost, and then also a carded set. That would be ideal. I would love that, but yeah, probably not going to happen. Hello, 17.2 couldn't you sell the second Ghost, just the physical ship? I could. This is true. I could do that, but I don't want to deal with the hassle. Like, I don't have really time to do that. And, I'm just busy, and yeah, I could do that, but I don't want to. And then you think of the size that these boxes are, it's huge. You can't put in your car or whatever. Like, I just don't want to deal with that, honestly. So yeah, so that's why the Ghost funded, and the The Gates did not. I'm going to go through the comments here and see what you guys are saying before we wrap up here. I've been going for a little over an hour now. The Ghost was a win. Yes, it was. JAQ, hello. The Ghost looks amazing, but I am on the fence of backing. I am just running out of room. I have backed the Hiss and Dragonfly. Maybe I'm being cheap, but if Ghost was $100, yeah. When you see this in person, or you get it in person, it's gonna be obvious why it's not $100. It's freaking huge. It's huge, and it's so detailed. It looks so great. The figures look amazing. I really want that Keenan figure. Yeah, I hope all the stretch goals get hit. If I had to wager, I would say that it probably will. We probably will. I'm not too worried about them not. I think it'll happen, especially with Ahsoka coming out. I think more people are going to see Ahsoka, and they're going to see the Ghost, and they're going to want to get back the Ghost. So again, timing is a big and critical part of this. And this Hasbro did a good job timing it right. Did you say a few weeks back you weren't interested in the Ghost, or was that the Sandcrawler? I'm not interested in the Sandcrawler. Even the Ghost, like, that wouldn't have been my first choice, because I love it. It's a great ship. Rebels is great, but it's just like I don't have room to put all these big things. That'd be my main reason. But that said, it is a HasLab. It is a TVC, so I'm obviously had to support it, and I do want it because it looks amazing. But the Sandcrawler we do not need. HasLab should not do things we already have. I don't care if it's the Imperial Shuttle. I don't care if it's a TIE Fighter. I don't care if it's an X-Wing. We have those things, and they may not be perfect, but use those HasLab resources and put them into things we do not have, because that's what I would prefer. That's what I think most collectors that I've talked to ultimately would prefer, is getting brand new things that have never been done in 3 3/4. Hollow Chronicles, how's it going? Nick 2000, how's it going? The theory that Mattel wanted to fail, I don't think so, because why would they want to embarrass themselves? Why would they want to look like failures to their bosses? Like, nobody wants to fail. That's kind of weird conspiracy stuff. But the way they set it up, they largely made it fail. Whether or not they wanted to, they made it fail because of all the reasons I outlined earlier. Money cheaper, would be back in a heartbeat. I'm going to wait to the last moment to back. I mostly have an Imperial fleet in 3 3/4, so I won't get too upset. It was never added. Yeah, so I mean, with any crowdfund campaign, you should never buy or back something out of obligation. I mean, it should be because you love the item and you love the brand or whatever it is. You want to support it. Hollow Chronicles, how's it going? That Zeb was breathtaking. I really hope we get there. I think we will. I think we will. First HasLab to have 100% new tooling for the figures. I was also surprised to hear the season 2 outfits will be exclusive to the campaign instead of just it just being the card backs. Yeah, that's what they said during the presentation, was that the figures in like, not just the cards, those figures are exclusive to the campaign. I even asked them during the Q&A, are you guys going to get them out like afterward? And they non-answer, of course, but the sense I got was that there was no plan to do that. So either you buy 2 or you buy another set of the figures on eBay. But yeah, it's brand new tooling, and these figures aren't going to be available anywhere else. I think Hera is coming in TVC later, but she's not. This is the season 4 looks of the figures, not the Rebels looks of the figures. The Rebels looks are not the Ahsoka looks of the figures. These are strictly the Rebels versions in this HasLab, even though the Ghost, they said, is based on Ahsoka. The box is going to say Ahsoka. It's not going to say Rebels, but the figure cards are going to say Rebels on them. Were you able to ask why Hasbro Ghost HasLab was able to reveal all the tiers automatically and other HasLabs hide their tiers? I did not ask that. But obviously the messaging worked because it got funded in 4 days. So I like how the Star Wars team showed all the stretch goals at once. Yeah, I think that was great too. I think that's part of the reason that people were so excited, because we haven't had the Rebels figures in TVC, and you're getting this Ghost, and the first thing when you think of the Ghost, It's not yet Ahsoka. Maybe it will be later on, but right now you think of Rebels. So we needed those figures. We really needed to have them because it would have been, I think, a tougher sell had they not announced that those were the stretch goals, that those figures were in fact coming. Glad we know the ghost survives the Ahsoka show, and I didn't like the escape pod on the Razor Crest. We never see him use it. I mean, I don't mind. I didn't mind that so much, and I don't really mind like I don't mind them innovating and adding things that are just off screen if they can be concealed into the vehicle and if they make sense for the vehicle. Like I think that feature on the Razor Crest, you can't even like see it unless you pull the thing off. So I'm okay with it, but it has to make sense and it has to like be integrated so well that it doesn't detract in any way. Hasbro needs to gradually complete the crew eventually for Ghost backers, even though we don't hit all stretch goals. Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, you would hope so, but these things take years and years. And obviously, how long ago was Rebels now? 9 years since it started, 2014. And, it's been this long. So for them, even if we didn't have these in HasLab, for them to make all these figures come out, it would take years. It would happen over years. It wouldn't be all at once, unfortunately. How much larger did the TVC's Deluxe Sabine's helmet look in person? The team's response to the questions about the scale misstep were certainly odd. Yeah, Ken. I mean, to me it looked good. I mean, I wasn't really analyzing the size of the helmet in person. Like I was there and I was taking photos and I was looking at it, but there's so many people when you're there. It's like, you can't really like analyze things too much. To me, it looked good. I didn't notice anything when I saw it in person. I didn't think like, oh, the helmet looks small or big or anything. To me, it looked good, but it was really quick. It wasn't like a long like look. That said, I think interchangeable heads are great when they make sense. They did it with Bo-Katan, and it was great. It worked so well. And I think that would have been my preference here. And I think they did say, I don't remember, I apologize, I don't remember whose Q&A it was, but somebody asked Hasbro about this, about the interchangeable helmets. And one of the reasons they said regarding Sabine is that you see her most of the time with her helmet off and that she's carrying it. So they wanted her to have it as an accessory. But what I do with Bo-Katan is I have her with the unhelmeted head on one of my displays and she's carrying the helmet in her arm. And it's not just the helmet, it's the alternate head. So, I mean, it could have just been the alternate head. And then she could be holding that. Like it didn't have to be, she didn't have to have the helmet is what I'm saying, like the removable helmet. So yeah, that was a little strange. And also the whole 8D8 thing with it not having elbows. Like what's that about? That's just bizarre. And I'm not really happy about that one. I agree. New is better. So give us the Twilight from Clone Wars. Yeah, I mean, I always, the Twilight's not the most exciting ship, but it's very much Clone Wars, right? Like when you think of the Twilight, you think of Clone Wars. I don't even think it's been in live action that I can recall. But yeah, that said, I don't know that I'm in a hurry to get the Twilight. The TIE Defender would be awesome. Future HasLab. Yeah, that could be cool. I want a Tana V4. I don't think we're ever going to get that. That's just, I mean, I love it. I don't think we're ever going to get that. We have the hallways. Those are great. I don't know if that's exciting enough for a HasLab. I know a lot of people will support it, but with these HasLabs, often like this one and the Razor Crest, they're really trying to capitalize on media, right? Like the Razor Crest was Mandalorian. What season 2 was coming out at the time. Ahsoka's around the corner. So, I think anytime you see a HasLab, it's either going to be something that a consensus of the collecting community agrees on, or it's going to be something that's can be done in an impressive way that is viable, but also ties into whatever current media is. And I think, they did that so well with the Ghost and the Razor Crest. And I think, if it's not going to be like a Cantina or a Death Star, it's going to have to be something you tie into current media. The Bad Batch could have been their ship and the rest of their crew instead of the Ghost. I mean, yeah. I mean, I do have the Republic attack shuttle they did during like the Was it like 2010, something like, I don't even remember what year it was, 2011. I do have that. And it's kind of similar to their vehicle. It's a little different, but it's kind of similar. But yeah, I think the Ghost probably would have. Bad Batch is still finding its footing, I guess, with a lot of people. So I don't know if that would have worked. I thought it was interesting that the throne card I shared online had Rebels logo instead of Ahsoka. Did Hasbro mention why it was like that? Yes, Bob, they did. So this is because the Thrawn figure is based on his appearance in Rebels. It's not based on his appearance in Ahsoka. I mean, if you think of continuity, he should look the same, right? He should look the same in Ahsoka as he does in Rebels, but the figure is based on Rebels, and that's why he has the Rebels card and not the Ahsoka card. I assume we'll get an Ahsoka one at some point, but that's not what this figure is. Thoughts on the aftermarket prices for Hammond, Dilophosaurus, and Gallimimus? How certain dinos go from unpopular to all of a sudden in demand? Yeah, so the Gallimimus, I did notice that one a while back, like 6 months ago. And yeah, I think it didn't really hit retail that I recall, and it wasn't around for a long time. And it's a herd builder, right? People in the movie, you see a bunch of them. So I think for all of those reasons, that's part of why it got expensive. The Dilophosaurus too, that one was kind of around for a bit, so I'm a little more surprised than why that one would jump in price. But it's like anything, if you sit out on it and you don't take advantage of getting it at retail price, you're gonna have to pay more later. Like that's just how it is. I want the Mandalorian Gauntlet fighter. So yeah, that is definitely a possibility, but I think we'd have to see it more, and I think people would have to be excited about it. HasLab C. Come on, Black Series team, give us a Jedi Starfighter with a Revenge of the Sith anniversary so I can relive my childhood memories of getting the Saga Legends one, please. I want a big toy despite not having space for it. Yeah. I love the Jedi Starfighter, especially the second version, the ETA 2, Class 2, whatever it's called. I love that. And, I'm very much pick and choose when it comes to Black Series these days. But I don't think I could help myself if they did an Anakin Skywalker Jedi Starfighter. I think I would love that. That HasLab Cantina with the Tonica Sisters SOC. Yeah, we need that. That would be the dream, and that's yeah. If you watch my Q&A, that's what I said. Is like, hey, my dream one would be a Cantina with 2 twin sisters. That would be the one. Heck yeah, that's what I'd want. Have Jabba's throne room. Yeah, that would be cool to have it with Jabba's throne room. I mean, that would go a long way if they did a Cantina, honestly. The Cantina needs a Jenny tier 2. Okay, so this is an obscure one, Hollinet one. And I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people in here don't know who Jenny is. But in the Cantina, Jenny is this lady that Han Solo is. You see Han Solo like in the booth with his arm around like a girl, and then there's another girl in the Cantina, and that's Jenny. So Jenny is just a very obscure human that was in the Cantina. Bonus points if you knew that. Doing the Ghost was a smart move to service both an animated Rebels fan base and a live-action Ahsoka fan base, as well as an appeal to more than just classic trilogy fans. This ticked a lot of boxes. I agree, Ken. That's really well said. Rebels is original trilogy adjacent, right? It's kind of within that window at the very beginning of the Skywalker saga, or the beginning of the original trilogy. And it has cross appeal because it's in Rebels, but it's also going to be in Ahsoka. And it does have a very original trilogy inspired look. Like you see qualities of the Millennium Falcon, you see qualities of the Outrider, which I guess if we consider the Outrider, it does have some of those like aesthetic similarities. So yeah, I think it was a great choice. It may not have been my first choice, but it was a great choice. And again, timing, messaging, all that's super important. And they did what they needed to do here with the Ghost. Glad I bought 8 of those gals. You bought more than me there, Greg. You bought more than me because I don't remember, about 6 or 7, but you've outdone me with 8 because I definitely don't have 8. I'd love to see Dash Rendar Outrider. Yeah, that'd be cool. The Outrider, like, it's actually a pretty neat ship. You see it really quick in in the special edition of A New Hope. But it's a great looking ship. Like, it looks really cool. Unfortunately, Shadows of the Empire never really took off. Yeah, that's kind of true. That's kind of true. Not necessarily for a HasLab, but in some form, maybe at least a Microgalaxy Outrider. That's actually a really good idea, Greg. I did go to the Microgalaxy booth. There wasn't anybody there to talk to, but I did see their displays. I did see all the vehicles, and the AT-AT look cool. I think you're right. I think that's a good format to do that. All right, guys. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? We're coming upon an hour and a half almost. So I don't want to keep you. I know that I could talk about this stuff for another hour, but I don't want to bore you with my Star Wars and Jurassic Park stuff. But I could. I know everybody else has things to do. The Evenhawk HasLab. Now that we have Revan, yeah, that would be cool. I don't know that that's gonna happen. That's kind of, it's a cool thing. I'd love to see it, but I don't think that's gonna happen at this point. That'd have to like come back in some way and be like a really focal aspect of Star Wars content. Like, it'd have to be in a show. It'd have to be like a big thing, a video game or something for people to want it. I'm just enjoying the show. Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Good feedback. Did you get your Commander Colt, the Black Series one? Or no, the TVC. I showed you on the last live stream. I pulled the bag out, the bag that Walmart affectionately sent them to me in, and I pulled them out, and they were all messed up. So yeah, they were messed up. I sent them back. I got a refund. They went back in stock yesterday. I don't know if they still are on Walmart's site. But it's like, I don't know if I want to spend $16.99 to order another figure, and then it's going to come in an envelope again, and then we're back to square one. I don't know if I want to waste my time doing that. So maybe Entertainment Earth will get it later, and then, I can get it in more mint condition. Did you get the email about Fives being canceled? In Black Series? I thought I got that one. I thought he came in last week. I'm pretty sure I got him. Unless it wasn't Fives. Was it another clone? There's so many ARC Troopers, like I don't even know anymore. Havoc and Blitz were indeed the other two. And then the other ARC Troopers before that, which I kind of want them to stop making all these random ARC Troopers. I love ARC Troopers. I love Clone Troopers. But I want them to focus more on like actual ones that aren't in video games and stuff. Like, focus on like the ones from like Squadrons that we see in Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars. I'd prefer that. Jesse came in last week. Is that who it was? Yeah, okay, so I got Jesse last week. Did I get a cancellation from Walmart? I saw that Yakface posted that that happened, that people were getting that in their inbox, but I'm checking right now. I hadn't seen anything yet about that from Walmart. No, I don't have anything from Walmart yet, but that doesn't mean I won't. Yeah, I don't have anything today from Walmart, so hopefully that's a good sign. Victoria, what do you think of the new Hot Toys Anakin that was just announced? Any guesses on price? Yeah, so there's the new Anakin with rooted hair, and I mean, it looks good. I would say the sculpt looks pretty awesome. I'm not sure I'm sold on the rooted hair, because I've seen some photos where the hair looks like really poofy and really weird, but then I've seen some where from some angles it looks good. I kind of get a little concerned with rooted hair, because I don't know how it's going to hold up over time. Whereas with the sculpt, like, that's how it looks. It's always going to look like that. So, I prefer that it had, like, I have the Justice League Wonder Woman. She's got rooted hair, and I haven't touched it. Like, I'm afraid to touch it. So she just has like the rooted hair, and it still looks pretty good, but I worry, like, is it going to always look like that? Or is it going to fall out? Is it going to get like from humidity, like get all curly? Like, I just don't know. But the Anakin does look good. The Joker looks really good too. The Dark Knight Joker. That one does have two versions. You can get the artisan version with the hair and slightly different makeup, or you can get the regular version that's coming. I don't think the regular one is limited. But they both look great. Even with that, I don't know. I kind of feel like I would lean towards the more rooted hair because I think it looks a little more natural, and it's probably going to hold up. It's not going to get ugly like rooted hair might. I know it's supposed to be better rooted hair, like wool or something that they're using on Anakin and Joker, but still, like, I don't know anything about wool, so I can't tell you, like, when it gets dry, is it going to deteriorate? When it gets humid, is it going to deteriorate? Like, I just don't know. Could you avoid the envelope from Walmart if you order as a gift? I know Amazon will put stuff in boxes sometimes over envelopes. That description. Good point, Jason. Amazon does that sometimes. I have done things sometimes as a gift where they don't always do that. But I do that with Amazon for certain toys where I know I want the packaging like to be in good shape, just in case they send it in a box. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think more often than not, they treat it pretty well, but it's not a guarantee. But yeah, Walmart just needs to use boxes is all it is. Like there needs to be a rule at the higher level of Walmart that says, hey, distribution centers, this is the collector item. We're charging $17 for a 4-inch figure. You need to take a little more care and package it carefully. Like that messaging probably just doesn't exist. If it did, maybe things would be different. But yeah. I didn't get a FICE cancellation notice, just that they were zeroing out the cost as a price match thing, which was equally odd. Oh, I did get that one. I think I was getting confused with Jesse and Fives then, I guess. Because I know I got a Walmart ARC Trooper in a bag last week from Walmart. But I just don't remember anymore like what names they are. They all look the same. I mean they don't, but they kind of do with their clones. FYI, parts can be used from the new Phase 2 Clone Trooper to upgrade the ARC Troopers with just part swapping. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. If anyone wants Death Star droids, my buddy was just at Toys R Us Toys R Us in New Jersey? And there were a billion of them? You guys have Toys R Us in New Jersey? They were all closed in the US. How do you have a Toys R Us in New Jersey? Unless you're somewhere else. Do you collect Barbie? Not really. But I got a couple because I have everything, I guess. It's funny you mentioned that because this is just chilling right here at the moment. I do have this. Yeah, I'm showing a Barbie on Social Hour. It's true, it happened. Here's the evidence. So this is actually like, it says 1965, but it's a recreation of a vintage Barbie. So this is student teacher Barbie, which was, I got this one because, I'm a teacher and I had this role as a student teacher one time. And I just thought, hey, it makes sense. It just feels right. It just makes sense. It's a really pretty Barbie and it does have like the vintage look and everything. The box even looks vintage. But it's from, I forget what year it's from. Student teacher Barbie doll. 2009. It's from 2009. But yeah, so I do have that because I am a teacher. That's the reason that I have it. Okay, we'll just put her in the background. Why not? Barbie's popular right now, so we'll just have Barbie here in the background along with Black Chrysanthemum and Steven Spielberg. Because what better trio of characters would you want in a sticky situation than those three? In your opinion, is the Indiana Jones line done? Pienso que sí. I say yes. Yeah, I think it's done. I mean, at this point, Target has clearanced it out. I never really saw a lot at Walmart. I think it's done, unfortunately. I mean, it's kind of what I personally expected. I didn't think Indiana Jones was going to go on as a line for a long time, but I did expect that I thought it would maybe last a little longer. A lot of people were complaining early on, oh, Indiana Jones, every single figure in this line, every other figure is Indiana Jones. Yes, and there's a reason for that because I think Hasbro knew that Indiana Jones, unfortunately, isn't an evergreen property. It's not the kind of brand that is all year long, like Star Wars, like Jurassic World. As far as product lines, as toy lines go, Marvel, Transformers, all that. Indiana Jones has never been that. The 2008 toy line didn't do so great. And I think they took that into consideration. I think that's part of the reason we got 6-inch and not 4-inch. And also 6-inch is now the universal like standard amongst toy companies versus 4-inch, which was in 2008. The Indiana Jones line came out last. So it made sense why every other figure is Indiana Jones, because they wanted to make sure they got in during that hype window and the getting would be good on earning your collector dollars, because they wanted to make sure that they're capitalizing on the hype. Like I said, good companies find ways to do this sometimes and not always. But it depends, right? Because you don't get like the new Star Wars most of the time when the new show's coming out. But, you get Marvel when Marvel movies are coming out. Like it's just all kind of strange. Yeah, I think it's probably done. Short of an exclusive item or short of, just this off chance that they have like something unannounced, like another version of Indy or something, I think the line's pretty done. And, it's unfortunate, but I think they knew that going into it. I think that's why they had every other figure Indiana Jones, and how they've been pretty much keeping the waves like fairly close together. It's the only one in the US. What am I doing wrong living here in San Diego? Like, if there's no Toys R Us here, but there's one in New Jersey, where did I go wrong? You're a teacher. Awesome. Yep. Sure am. No Ghostbusters. Yeah. I was disappointed that there hasn't been any Ghostbusters announcement. I know the movie, it just came out today. It was reported that the movie, the new one, is going to be delayed. So it's not going to be out till sometime later in 2024. But yeah, I wish Ghostbusters, when I was a kid, it was an evergreen property. It was on the shelves for years, but now it's not. And honestly, I don't think Hasbro's done enough with the Ghostbusters line. Like, they got that line back after losing it to Mattel, and then they got it back from Mattel several years ago now. But what I love is that Hasbro did do some of the retro line. That was cool. But there's so much more they could do that they need to bring out. There really is. There were so many inventive, cool ghosts and action figures in the the real Ghostbusters line, and they could bring those back and keep that going. And I think they did overproduce some of the earlier stuff. At first, it was so hard to get, but then they overproduced it to make up for that. And I think it didn't do as well. But so I think it's viable. I think they should still pursue it, but they should just probably do less and kind of make sure it's more like the ghosts that are more popular, more expensive on eBay these days to recreate those. Also, I would say the Plasma series, I don't think they've taken advantage of that. I really wanted to get Ghostbusters 2 or, repaints, or the real Ghostbusters, right? You could use the same body, you just do a new head. They could have done that. Diamond selected that, use that exact same tactic. Could be done. I don't think they're really taking advantage of the potential of the Ghostbusters license. And I really would like to see them do more with that, because I think I think it's viable. Just from my conversations with collectors, what I've seen, what I collect, I think people would love those, as old timers, I guess. The Kenner lines have never been 6-inch. That's a major mistake on the part of Hasbro G.I. Joe. True, but today that's the industry standard, 6-inch, and it has been for the last decade. And you would have done better if they would have continued the 4-inch line. I can't say that. If it was like TVC, like $16 a figure, $17 a figure, no, it just wouldn't have happened. But I think they're also looking at market data from 2008 to see how poorly the line did. And they're like, okay, do we want to do that again? They're playing it safe. Riley Bob, how's it going? Did the JP Gates really end with over 1 million backers? I saw that on Twitter/X. I'm not sure if that was for real or not. I'm never going to get used to that X thing. Yeah, it is true that happened, yes, but it wasn't genuine. It showed that way on their website. My understanding is that the site was hacked, and that's what happened. Um, yeah, so some maybe it was Nedry, I don't know, or maybe it was Lex. She was bored. I don't know, but yeah, so that's what happened there. It was yeah, nobody went in and purchased um that a million gates or however many it was. Nobody did that. So yeah, it wasn't it happened. It was a real thing that happened, but it didn't really happen because it was compromised. Consistency is important. Absolutely is consistent. Toys R Us inside Macy's. It could be, well, if it is that, that's kind of I'm a little disappointed because those are everywhere. The Orange line would suffer too because they can't expend the Nazi Russian soldiers and vehicles. Um, yeah, they covered that ground pretty well though in the 2008 line when it kept going and they improved things a little bit with the vehicles and the figures. Then it became more that stuff they were able to do in 4-inch. Not everything, but there is a good bit in there. I saw Ghostbusters figures at Ollie's for $10. It's still kind of pricey. I mean, considering that they were on clearance. Really need Ghostbusters 2 figures? Yes, we do. I need a 1/12 painting of Vigo the Carpathian. That would be awesome. Egon. Here I am in Ghostbusters mind. I said Egon instead of Elon. I never realized how close those names were actually. Elon Musk heard our prayers at the 11th hour. Yeah, and then he went in and ordered that many gates. Yeah, could have been. I mean, I guess some people could afford to do that. Okay, well, I think I'm caught up on questions and comments. So if there's nothing else, thank you guys for hanging out. It's been fun. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, I mean that's our focus really on the Mattel Creations Jurassic Park Gates crowdfund and the Hasbro HasLab Star Wars: The Vintage Collection, the Ghost HasLab. That's why one failed and one succeeded. It came down to a lot of it was on Mattel for the poor timing, the lack of messaging, the unusual tiers, and stretch goals, and just the overall messaging. Like that was a big reason it didn't come to fruition. I think a lot of the blame lies at Mattel. The products themselves were great. I saw them in person. The gate is worth $250, but the communication to convey that to people without going to see it in person wasn't really done, I don't think, appropriately. So I think Mattel is largely to blame for a lot of these failures, but also not enough people in the collecting community came to bat for the Ghost. So I think those things combined are for the gates. So I think those things, just culminated in an unfortunate failure with the gates that I wanted to happen and a lot of people wanted to happen. And I don't know if we'll ever get gates. Like I said earlier, if we do, they're going to be kind of dumbed down versions. And I don't know when there's going to be another Jurassic Creations, maybe there won't. I don't know. And then that's the reason for every opposite reason that example that the Ghost funded in the time that it did. It was announced to great fanfare and great hype, capitalizing on the announcement at Comic-Con. The messaging was great, having it on display, the live streaming, all that was the Q&As, all that, and then Ahsoka being around the corner, the timing was done. Everything was handled well. Like I said on Twitter, the Twitter X, whatever it's called now, X, the other day, Mattel or Hasbro's unveiling of the Ghost, the presentation and everything is a masterclass on how a crowdfund by a big corporation toy company should be handled, because it was quite flawless, honestly, quite flawless. Victoria, do you have the Toys R Us exclusive JP Triceratops damaged body panel on the machine gunner figure? I do. I used to. I used to have that. I think I know the one you're talking about. Is that the one in the green box? I used to have that. There was a Velociraptor. There was a little baby T-Rex, a junior T-Rex, and there was a Dimetrodon. And I had those. I got them on clearance at KB Toys years ago. And when I moved, I relocated one time and they got lost, and I never recovered them. And now they're hundreds of dollars on eBay each. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Adam. Have a great weekend to you too. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for coming in. Fatmatic, thank you for being with us this evening. Mary, great to have you as always. And Jason, get creative and go out there and make some games. Yeah, people are doing it. In fact, a lot of people just use the Kenner ones because they actually hold up pretty well. They're not perfect, but they hold up. My friends, honestly, really, thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching the Hasbro Q&A and for, being here with us on Friday nights and for, hanging out on social media and everything. Really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you guys and kind of spout off on all these topics, Sorry. But thank you all for being here. Thanks to everybody who had questions and left comments, and those of you who are lurkers, who are just hanging out in the darkness, just waiting to step out from that dark corner in the cantina. So we appreciate everybody. We welcome all at the cantina. All, doesn't matter. Thank you very much. Be well, be safe, no matter where you're tuning in from out in the galaxy. May the force be with you. Enjoy your weekend, people. And next week I will be off. I should throw that in here. Next week I will be off from Social Hour because I will be. I'm not going to be home. I have something I need to travel to, so I won't be here. But the week after, you bet, baby, we'll be here. Same bat time, same bat channel, and typically 5 to 10 minutes late because otherwise it wouldn't be Cantina Social Hour if that wasn't the case. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Sleep well. Enjoy, chill, play your Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Have fun. It's Friday night. Take care, guys. Bye.